Well, the British royals have posed for a new formal photograph. You notice there she's the only splash of color in this picture, but take a close look at her tiara.
Everything changed the moment those council doors opened. Inside was a decision that could tear the royal family apart. Camilla had reportedly lost the title she had spent decades fighting to protect, and Catherine was named as its replacement. But then, as the final words were read aloud, Camilla suddenly reached for a chair. She missed it and collapsed. Charles froze. William rushed forward, and Catherine, who had no idea the decision was coming, was left facing the most explosive moment of her royal life. But the collapse was only the beginning, because hidden inside the council's sealed order was one detail that could change everything. And it left one question hanging over the palace. Why had Charles not signed it? Suddenly, the entire atmosphere inside the palace changed. Charles watched in silence as William moved quickly to help Camilla, while Catherine remained completely unaware of what had just happened. She had been kept away from the council chamber, partly to prevent anyone from believing that she had demanded Camilla's removal or played a role in the decision. But the situation was about to become even more complicated. Beside the council order was a sealed appendix containing additional conditions. According to the story, it placed new restrictions on Camilla's staff, residences, briefings, and ceremonial responsibilities. Only a small number of senior figures had reportedly been allowed to read it. William looked closely at the final page. Then he noticed something that immediately raised another question. The space beneath Charles's name was still empty. There was no signature. The king had not personally approved the document in the way everyone expected. Was Charles refusing to accept what the council had decided? Or had he deliberately left the signature blank because he was trying to protect his wife from a decision he knew could permanently change her life? That unanswered question suddenly became more important than the title itself, because behind the formal announcement was a much deeper struggle. For years, Camilla and Catherine had appeared together at the same ceremonies, stood beside the same members of the royal family, and smiled beneath the same palace lights. To the public, those moments suggested unity. But behind those carefully controlled appearances, their positions represented two very different visions of the monarchy. Camilla had spent decades trying to earn acceptance. Her journey into royal life had never been simple. She faced public criticism, private suspicion, and years of uncertainty over whether she would ever be fully accepted within the institution. Every ceremony mattered to her. Every official appearance beside Charles carried meaning. Every new responsibility seemed to prove that she had finally secured the place she had spent years fighting to reach. That was why losing her title would feel like much more than losing a formal position. It would strike directly at the fear she had carried for years, that no matter how much she endured, her place beside the king might never truly be secure. Catherine's path had been very different. She did not build her influence through confrontation or demands. Instead, her position grew slowly through public duty, family life, patience, and careful restraint. Over time, people began to see her as a steady figure within the monarchy. Her influence increased without appearing to be something she had actively pursued. William noticed that change. So did senior members of the institution. And eventually, so did Camilla. When Catherine finally received the council's decision, she reportedly struggled to process what she was reading. She had expected another royal responsibility. She had not expected to receive a position connected to the removal of another woman. "I never asked to take anything from her," Catherine reportedly said. William understood. He knew his wife had never wanted to appear ambitious at Camilla's expense. He also understood the painful reality of what had happened. Catherine was being handed greater authority at precisely the moment another woman was losing the position she had spent decades protecting. For Catherine, there was no easy way to celebrate. For Camilla, there was no easy way to accept it. Then William reportedly explained what he had been told during a private briefing. The transfer was not being presented as a reward for Catherine. Instead, it was described as a safeguard intended to prevent a much larger crisis inside the monarchy. And that explanation created a new mystery. What had happened behind palace doors to make such an extreme decision necessary? The answer reportedly began several weeks earlier. During a crowded royal ceremony, an instruction issued in Catherine's name was allegedly challenged by Camilla. Most people in the room noticed nothing unusual. William did. He saw the exchange, and reportedly heard enough of the conversation to understand that something deeper was happening. While Charles watched the tension develop between the two sides of his family, at the same time, Charles had begun reducing some of his public duties. That change created a growing need to decide who would carry greater ceremonial responsibilities. Catherine was naturally becoming more important because of her position beside William and the future role she was expected to play within the monarchy. But Camilla still held influence over several important palace channels. These included schedules, invitations, briefings, and instructions sent to senior members of the household. To the public, those systems were almost invisible. Inside the palace, however, control over those channels could mean significant influence. Then came the moment that reportedly changed everything. During a rehearsal for a Windsor investiture, an official list placed Catherine at the front of the receiving line. The arrangement had reportedly been approved through the proper royal channels. But when Camilla saw the list, she allegedly stopped and questioned the decision. According to the account, the document was changed. Catherine's name was removed from the position and Camilla's was placed above it. William reportedly saw the revised list before the rehearsal began. For him, this was no longer a minor disagreement over ceremony. It appeared to show that an approved instruction had been changed after it had already been issued. He decided to confront Camilla privately. William followed her away from the main area and asked why his father's instruction had been altered. The question was calm, but the tension behind it was obvious. Camilla reportedly did not apologize. Instead, she challenged the idea that Catherine's growing popularity automatically gave her greater authority. The disagreement exposed something much deeper than a dispute over where one royal should stand. It raised a question about who truly controlled the machinery of the palace. Was Catherine's rising influence simply the natural result of the monarchy preparing for its future? Or had the growing power around William and Catherine begun to threaten Camilla's carefully protected position? And if royal instructions could be changed after leaving the king's office, how long could the palace continue to function without a direct confrontation? William left that encounter knowing the situation had changed. The rivalry was no longer hidden behind smiles and carefully arranged photographs. It had reached the internal structure of the monarchy itself. And from that moment forward, every new decision would carry a much greater risk. Because what looked like a disagreement between two senior royals was beginning to raise a far more serious question. Who would ultimately control the crown's next chapter? Privately, William decided that the situation could no longer be ignored. He followed Camilla away from the main ceremony and asked why Catherine's position had been changed after the king's instruction had already been issued. The question was direct, but William remained controlled. Camilla allegedly looked at him and gave an answer that would stay with him long after the conversation ended. Catherine, she suggested, needed to understand the difference between popularity and rank. Those words changed the meaning of the entire dispute. This was no longer simply about where Catherine stood during a ceremony. It was about who had the right to influence decisions inside the palace, and whether popularity could ever translate into real authority. William understood what Camilla was implying. Catherine might have growing public support, but Camilla believed royal rank still gave her a stronger position within the institution. For years, that distinction had protected the older generation. But the monarchy was changing. William was becoming more important to the future of the crown, and Catherine's role was growing alongside his. That created an uncomfortable question. What happened when the influence of the future royal generation began to overlap with the authority of those already holding senior positions? The answer would soon become impossible to avoid. After the confrontation, and reportedly went directly to Charles. She warned her brother that the issue had moved far beyond a personal disagreement between two members of the family. Catherine's role had been approved by the king himself. If those instructions were being changed after leaving his office, then the problem was no longer simply about Catherine or Camilla. It was about Charles's authority. And more importantly, it could affect William's future position within the monarchy. Anne's warning came with something even more serious. 3 earlier directives were reportedly placed before Charles. Each document had left the king's office carrying one instruction. Yet when those instructions reached palace staff, the wording or arrangement had allegedly changed. The documents appeared to reveal a pattern. If the reports were accurate, this had not happened just once during an emotional disagreement. It had happened repeatedly. That suggested someone had been using internal palace channels to reshape decisions after they had already been approved. Charles could no longer treat the matter as a misunderstanding. He summoned Camilla to his private library that evening. The atmosphere was very different from the carefully controlled world outside the palace walls. There were no cameras, no public speeches, no smiling photographs. Only Charles, Camilla, William, and with the altered documents placed between them. Charles looked down at the papers before asking one simple question. Had Camilla deliberately overruled his instructions? For several moments, there was silence. Camilla reportedly did not deny changing the decisions. Instead, she turned the accusation back toward William. She argued that William was taking advantage of his father's reduced workload and using Catherine's growing popularity to create a separate power circle around them. In her view, the younger generation was slowly pushing the older one aside. William did not accept that argument. He reportedly answered that the issue had nothing to do with popularity. It was about following the king's instructions. If Charles had approved something officially, William argued, nobody inside the household should have the authority to quietly change it afterward. The disagreement had reached a point where neither side could simply walk away. Then Charles made a demand that Camilla had not expected. He asked her to apologize. But that was not all. The king also wanted her to surrender control of the household communication channel that connected senior staff with important royal instructions. To an outsider, it might have sounded like a minor administrative change. Inside the palace, it was anything but minor. That channel gave Camilla access to schedules, briefings, invitations, and information moving between senior members of the household. Giving it up would mean losing much of the behind-the-scenes influence she had built over the years. Camilla understood exactly what Charles was asking. She reportedly told him that surrendering that influence would leave her powerless inside her own marriage. It would also expose her to everyone who had spent years waiting for her position to weaken. She reminded Charles of the promises he had made before he became king. Those promises, she believed, were part of the reason she had endured years of criticism and uncertainty, but finally intervened. According to the account, she told Charles that she had already requested a formal review. The reason was even more troubling. Several senior staff members had reportedly admitted that they were afraid to question instructions coming from Camilla's office. If staff were afraid to challenge an unofficial decision, and argued, then the institution had a much deeper problem. This was no longer a disagreement between relatives. It was becoming a question of trust. Could palace staff trust the instructions they received? Could the king trust that his decisions would remain unchanged once they left his office? And could the monarchy continue functioning if senior officials believed that challenging the wrong person might have consequences? Camilla reportedly warned Charles that allowing the review to continue would destroy everything he had once promised to protect. She believed the process would turn years of sacrifice into public humiliation. Then she stood up. Without waiting for another response, she walked out and closed the door behind her. Charles remained silent. For the first time, he was forced to confront a question he had spent years avoiding. If the council recommended removing Camilla's title, could he actually stop it? The answer was buried inside the ancient structure of royal authority. The monarchy was not governed by personal relationships alone. Behind the king stood constitutional advisors, senior household officials, and established procedures designed to protect the continuity of the crown. Their concern was no longer whether Camilla had offended Catherine. Their concern was whether private influence had begun interfering with official royal authority. By the time Charles entered the council chamber, the recommendation was already waiting. The document reportedly covered Camilla's ceremonial title, household authority, access to information, and official precedence. Every section carried a simple but serious question. Were these privileges still helping the monarchy, or had they become part of the problem? William and Anne were present, but neither had the power to decide the matter alone. William represented the future of the crown, and represented decades of trusted royal service. But the final decision still depended on the council's authority and the king's response. Charles slowly read the recommendation from beginning to end. When he reached the final page, he removed his glasses and sat quietly. Then he admitted something that revealed just how personal the decision had become. Approving the order, he said, would feel like publicly declaring that his marriage had failed. For years, Charles had defended Camilla. Now the institution he had sworn to protect was asking him to choose between defending the woman he loved and defending the authority of the crown. And whatever decision he made next would change both his marriage and the monarchy forever. For years he had defended Camilla. Now he had to decide whether protecting her meant risking the stability of the crown. However, the council's position was becoming impossible to ignore, and reportedly told Charles that protecting Camilla from embarrassment could not come at the cost of Catherine, worried staff, or the future stability of the monarchy. Then William opened the sealed appendix. It reportedly showed that Camilla's office had delayed briefings meant for Catherine, including information connected to a major national ceremony. Catherine had nearly appeared unprepared in front of senior officials and foreign guests. Charles finally understood the real danger. This was no longer about personal rivalry. It was about whether royal instructions could still be trusted after leaving his office. The council agreed to transfer Camilla's title, but Charles asked for one final night. He offered her a way out. Camilla could surrender the title voluntarily, keep selected privileges, and present the change as a graceful transition. But she refused. To her, signing meant admitting defeat. By morning, the council turned its recommendation into a formal order. Charles then gave her one final option. Charles spent the night alone, devastated that his final attempt to protect her dignity had failed. He had chosen duty, but it felt nothing like a victory. By sunrise, the transfer was already underway. Staff received orders to move their reporting lines, offices, and ceremonial duties to Catherine's household. One quiet exchange made the change official. Camilla's folder was removed from the council chamber and replaced with one bearing Catherine's name. Neither woman was there to see it. Later, Camilla recovered and refused to speak with Charles. Instead, she asked for one meeting with Catherine. For the first time, they would face each other without Charles, William, advisors, or the council between them. The palace expected anger. But when Camilla entered Catherine's room, there were no accusations or prepared statements. Only the two women sat facing each other, with the disputed document between them. Then Camilla asked the question Catherine had been dreading. "Did you know?" Catherine's response could decide whether the crisis finally ended or started again. She looked at Camilla and answered clearly. She had not known the council would act that morning, and she had never asked for Camilla's removal. The new title had not made her feel victorious. It had left her deeply unsettled. For the first time, Camilla lowered her defenses. She reportedly admitted that Catherine's growing popularity had frightened her. She feared becoming invisible as public trust shifted toward the younger royal. That fear had pushed her to change instructions and delay briefings, turning Catherine's rising influence into a personal threat. Catherine did not excuse her actions, but she began to understand the fear behind them. Then Catherine revealed something unexpected. She had considered refusing the title. William had warned her that doing so could reopen the power struggle and weaken the council's decision. Catherine finally understood that accepting the role was not about defeating Camilla. It was about stopping the conflict from damaging the monarchy any further. Camilla slowly pushed the transfer document toward her. Her message was simple. Never mistake a royal title for personal security. Catherine accepted the document and promised that her first public appearance would not be a celebration. It would acknowledge the human cost behind the decision. By afternoon, the story had escaped the palace. Broadcasters interrupted regular programming as the country waited to see Catherine for the first time in her new role. By then, crowds had gathered outside Buckingham Palace. But the defining image was Catherine stepping from her car without a smile, wearing no celebratory jewels, and holding a handwritten statement. It was clear this was not a victory parade. The palace soon released a formal bulletin confirming that Camilla's title and ceremonial authority had transferred to Catherine with immediate effect. But the statement revealed very little about what had happened behind closed doors. It did not mention the altered directives, delayed briefings, or staff who had allegedly feared challenging Camilla's office. The country quickly divided. Some called the decision necessary. Others saw it as the public humiliation of the king's wife. Meanwhile, Charles stayed out of sight. Inside the palace, Catherine waited before stepping before the cameras. She told William she would not allow anyone to believe she was celebrating Camilla's downfall. She even removed a prominent ceremonial brooch before leaving the car. The message was clear. She would accept the responsibility, but she would not celebrate another woman's loss. Her handwritten statement honored Camilla's years of service and promised duty, stability, and respect. There was no talk of victory. But inside the palace, Charles faced an even harder moment. He had to meet Camilla again. By then, her ceremonial seal was gone, her official folder removed, and the order was already in force. Now only one question remained. What was left of their marriage after the crown had taken away her place? Meanwhile, Catherine's name now stood where Camilla's had once been. But Charles did not enter her room to discuss titles. He came to face what remained of their marriage after months of fear, ambition, and mistrust. Charles sat across from Camilla and placed his wedding ring hand on the table. He told her he still loved her, but love could no longer protect decisions that had weakened his authority. Camilla finally stopped fighting. She reportedly admitted that fear had influenced her choices. Catherine's growing popularity made her feel replaceable, while William's rising role made the future seem closer than she was ready to accept. Charles listened, but he did not reverse the decision. Their marriage would continue, he told her, but her role inside the institution would never be the same. She would step away from senior decisions and lose control of the disputed household channels. Catherine, meanwhile, accepted the new position as a duty, not a victory. The palace also changed its reporting system to prevent unofficial channels from overriding royal instructions again. Before evening, Catherine sent Camilla a handwritten message. She promised to use the new role to strengthen the family, not erase Camilla's years of service. The pain remained, but the power struggle was finally over. Camilla lost the position she believed would secure her future. Catherine inherited a responsibility she had never asked for. And Charles learned a painful lesson. Sometimes protecting the crown means refusing to protect someone you love from the consequences of their choices. The palace moved forward, wounded, changed, but ready for its next chapter. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more royal stories.